What are early signs of a toxic relationship? When you have to psyche yourself up to before you see them. When you have to map out regular conversations beforehand in your head to prevent an explosion. Controlling behavior. It can start out as seeming like they are only looking out for your being by always having to be with you or asking who is on the phone / hanging right next to you when you use it. Showing signs of being hurt that you are talking to, let's say your best friend, and not talking to or hanging out with them and then getting mad at you for it. Lover bombing. Lover bombing is a classic emotional abuse tactic and the abuser often goes hard into it early in the relationship to get you hooked. Let's say you've been seeing someone for 3 weeks and they surprise you with tickets to an exotic vacation or an expensive gift. They'll also usually profess their affection for you often and kind of exaggerated. Lots of no one else has ever made me feel like this kind of stuff. That way you get attached quickly and form positive perceptions of this person so that when the abuse starts you A, don't leave because you know they are good underneath it and B, they can weaponize it against you as a guilt trip. That's not to say every fast-paced relationship is emotionally abusive, mind you. Every relationship works at its own speed and some are faster than others. But it's a reason to be cautious. Especially if it's an early relationship for you, abusers tend to favor inexperienced targets. Don't be afraid to say you're not ready for something, or that it's happening too fast for you to keep up with. In healthy relationships the other person will understand. An inability to take responsibility for their own actions, especially if you find yourself apologizing to them for being bothered by something they did. If, according to them, everyone they've ever dated before you mistreated them / is crazy / is to blame for their trust issues / etc. and you're the first person who has ever treated me well, be very careful. It absolutely could be true, but often people who are incapable of taking responsibility for their behavior create narratives like this around their past conflicts, and it can be very easy to get sucked in. The ego validation alone can be pretty seductive. Gaslighting. Run fast. It never ends. To quote myself, and I'm sure many others, when it's good it's the best ever, when it's bad I want to die. A lot of people have that sentiment in bad relationships. What they don't realize is that the good was never as good as they thought it was. It just seemed that way because the bad was so bad. Also, toxic partners often bank on you clinging onto the good days so you don't leave them when they put you through hell. When every argument is your fault and you have to be the one to apologize every time. Extreme codependency, and if you are both addicted to any substances and use together. When they start isolating you from your friends and wanting to know what you've been doing or where you've been all the time. Or making you feel bad for not being with them. 1. If being around them makes you tired. 2. If you feel like you aren't being your full and true self. 3. They overstep boundaries or don't understand why a boundary is being placed. This is a big one. 4. They are not kind to others. 5. You feel as though they are hiding something big from you. 6. If you aren't a priority. 7. If you are way too much of a priority. 8. They try to touch you or kiss you before you're ready, then don't respect that you've told them to stop or asked them to wait. 9. They make rude comments about strangers when you meet. 10. Inflated opinion of themselves and going on about how much different or better they are than other guys / girls you've been with. From my own experience, if you begin to question, no matter how tentatively or quietly, whether a relationship is unhealthy or if a partner is controlling / abusive, then you already know the answer. That is the main thing I would say. Because, as has already been said, the abuse happens gradually, and it is hard to pinpoint where it started, but it gradually becomes more normal to the person being abused as it increases. And the abuser will gaslight and make you doubt and question everything. So the second it enters your mind that it is even a possibility, trust that thought. And monitor any further behavior through that lens, rather than giving the benefit of doubt. Also, if you begin to feel like guilt is the strongest emotion guiding your relationship. Guilt for being late, for being too friendly to other men, for saying the wrong thing when he is stressed, for not answering texts quick enough, for leaving them to go out with friends, for having fun without them, Guilty for anything and everything. Chances are that's exactly how they want you to feel. If there is a pattern of them disliking your friends and family, and probably them all disliking your partner in return too, and constantly making out like they care more about you than those people do. Jokes at your expense, particularly when they are about something that they know will be hurtful/damage your self-esteem. Slidings or put downs that will be followed with "I'm only joking, don't be so sensitive." The biggest ones I can think of are moving too quickly, pressuring you into a relationship, living together, children etc too fast, and not taking no for an answer. Disparaging remarks and general disrespect for your family, friends and often other random people like waiters. That's an early sign of alienation and also narcissism. Emotional manipulation. Do you try to start a conversation about your feelings, only to come out realizing they made the whole thing about them? Do they make you feel bad if you ever try to criticize them or express your own needs? It might be them manipulating you. Feeling tense whenever you're around them. Texting you every waking moment of the day to know exactly what you're doing and never giving you time to yourself. This may depend on the person/s though. When you find yourself on Reddit asking for relationship advice. Constant low intensity arguments. Arguments just for their own sake. Some people grow up in homes like this, and they are accustomed to it. How they talk about their exes. Even if they were, in fact, a psycho, a healthy person can describe them tactfully. Most psychos are genuine people who've been gaslit, manipulated or hurt by the person who's now on their best behavior to hook you. How they handle little mishaps. Do they flip out if the food is cold or you're 5 minutes late? Run. How do they respond to the word no? This is the easiest and most important testimo. One no got me out of what could been a terrible relationship just a few months ago. I told a man I wanted to go home earlier than I'd planned. That led to him having an emotional outburst in the middle of a residential street. Do not try to rationalize any resistance to your boundaries. Just opt out as soon as possible. You spend most of your time being sad instead of happy because of your partner. Controlling behavior. Quickly escalating disagreements, controlling behaviors, underhanded comments implying cheating etc, and increasing lack of space. Cycles of arguing, breaking up then making up. Definitely control. But how to tell that? They will take an overactive interest in your reactions to things. They won't take no for an answer. It might be in a cute way at first, but it still is not taking no for an answer. Insisting you go along with something, no matter how harmless it might seem, or insisting you will enjoy something. Pretty soon, if you let that slide, they will be controlling various things. Where you can go, who you can talk to or see, who you can look at, even. Maybe not saying it outright, don't go there, stay home, why are you looking at them, but acting out if you do things like that, and they don't like it. Having a temper tantrum if you aren't exactly the way they think you should be, and of course the trick is, there is no pleasing them. They are always upset about something you did. It isn't only about jealousy but also friendships, family too. And then if you give in to that, there will be a new level. Bit like a video game, only not leveling up, leveling down, into hell. So once they get you to focus solely on them, now you are boring, or you did this wrong, did that wrong, if you say anything you talk too much, if you don't talk enough, or you laugh too much, or your cooking is bad, you name it, it's wrong. Pretty soon you forget who you are, and what makes you happy. Worse, you forget that it matters, if you are happy. Abuser will often pour it on too thick with romance and compliments in the beginning. That is another way to control you, and it won't last. No one can keep that up. If someone sweeps you off your feet, remember what comes next is a fall. Trying to make future plans like marriage with someone, and the couple has just started dating. Being blamed for everything. The relationship doesn't feel good. This is profoundly what I felt early on in my last relationship. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach that something was simply off. I brought up this feeling to him numerous times throughout our 6-year relationship and he countered it by saying things like everyone feels like this in a relationship, you just have to work to get past it. I was a coward and a fool for agreeing with him each time. Not surprisingly, our relationship was garbage. It turned me into a mean, spiteful person towards him. If it feels wrong, it is wrong. Never ignore that feeling. In addition to many of the more obvious ones here. 1. Not apologizing and not taking responsibility for their actions. 2. Always constructing a narrative that absolves them of responsibility in any issue. Both of these indicate an unwillingness to admit fault in any way that bruises their ego. On a small level, it's not sorry I made us late because I lost track of time. It's well, you should have called me to make sure I had eaten before we got close to the time to leave, and why does the extra half hour matter anyway? In my experience, this eventually turned into every issue, big or small, being 100% my fault no matter what, plus a dramatic rewriting of history to save her ego after the fact. When they do something that makes you uncomfortable, and they get mad at you for expressing your discomfort. Emo, projecting. IDK might just be me, but if someone is constantly saying stuff, like I know one day you'll wake up and be sick of me and just leave, or I know you'll end up cheating on me, then yeah, they're either traumatized because of a past relationship they haven't dealt with, or they're projecting their own habits. When they are emotional, when you do leisurely things that don't involve them. Sir, this is a relationship, I need some space, damn it. When alcohol is used for everything. Wanting to know exactly where you are, what you're doing, and who you're with all the time. You are having a conversation and all of a sudden they take offense at some misperceived slight. Then they blow it up out of nowhere, then go on and on and on until you are in a fight and now you are defending yourself for some non-existent bullshit. Laughing or dismissing the things that genuinely bother you. Unhealthy power dynamics forming. When you have an argument and they point out your personal issues. When you don't feel like you can actually speak about your problems, since they will take it personally or won't bother listening. My family uses what I tell them against me later. Edit, I just woke up, and wow, thank you all so much for your support. It really made me feel better. Off the top of my head. Limiting who you're friends with, ESP of opposite sex, tracking your location, and getting in trouble if you're out too late or veered away from a certain location, not staying in constant communication via text or social media. Your so sees you active on social media, but is hurt if you don't respond to them immediately. Gaslighting / they're always the victim. Everything is your fault, no matter the circumstance. One-sided rules. I take a combination of anything I said above, but it doesn't apply to them. Example, I'm allowed to have friends. But then they select your friends, constantly going through your things without permission, especially your phone, having passwords to your accounts, and reading through your stuff, or making changes on your behalf. When they constantly call all their exes crazy. When you omit telling your friends and family things, because you think it will damage their opinion of your partner. If you're ashamed, there's probably a good reason, and it's easier to lie to yourself when you're keeping information from the people who know you best. I have seen this so many times, and I've never cut off a friend. I always let them know that I'll always be here for them. I have helped 3 women this way, including my BFF and Lil C's. Ultimatums don't help. Always keep your hand extended and your phone line open. When you have to constantly and carefully police your words and actions to avoid setting them off. Whether it's an anger thing or a drama thing, whether it's over jealousy / suspicion or neediness or them being critical, or whatever, if you have to constantly walk on eggshells, because it will make your life stupidly difficult if you accidentally say or do something wrong that triggers them to respond irrationally, you know you have a problem. I think this is a good thing to pay attention to because it's non-specific to the type of problem. It applies equally to physical, emotional, and psychological abuse, and to those who are just energy sucking due to their own personal issues which may not be abusive at all. I find the first sign when my friends are in a toxic relationship is that they start making excuses and validating a person's bad behavior way too much.